Welcome to the Political Center podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Peone, and with me, I have the one and only
Andrew Morrison.
Andrew, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, love being down here.
Yeah. So, Andrew, you are running as a Republican in a Portland district.
Correct. Terrifying.
That's a crazy move.
Yeah.
What brought you to do this?
Well, as far as my background goes, I grew up in a household with a hospital administrator, Kennedy Democrat. My mom, and my dad is a Teamster, local 206, Reagan Republican. So if there's anything I know about compromising and understanding the middle of the political aisle, it's that. And really, it's just been my public service and love for my district. I've never left. I grew up in the north area of it. I went to church in the north area, went to Warner Pacific College in district, then moved to the south area. So I'm homegrown, never left the district.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What areas does this represent?
Mm-hmm. So we call it North Clackamas, Southeast Portland, is the quick way of saying it. I've got all of Damascus, Boring, a little bit of Happy Valley, a little sliver of Gresham, Centennial area, and then a pretty big chunk of Multnomah County and Southeast Portland. So I span two counties, Clackamas County and Multnomah County.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of diversity, both cultural diversity and economic diversity. There's some pretty good area of farmland in the Damascus Boring area, very rural. And then I've got, deep southeast that goes all the way up to the freeway there.
When was the last time that a Republican has won that seat? Do you know?
My district hasn't been red since the year 2000, since I graduated high school.
That's crazy. So what is it that makes you think that you have a shot?
Yeah. So a good litmus test was the referendum. I was a captain who collected the most signatures that weekend. We were over 4,000 signatures from my area. And what that told me is Oregonians are done with the polarizing, alienation of our local politics.
Yeah.
They're coming to the middle. We've got such logical individuals on both sides, both Democrat, Republicans. They're going, you know what? We need to focus on the main issues, which are affordability, public safety, and education. Those are the three biggest failures in our government today, in our state government. So with that referendum, people were signing that who were on the left, on the right, workers, business owners, ODOT workers were signing those. I mean, ODOT was at the epicenter of that. And people are done. People are done with the grandstanding politics, with the, the bumper sticker politics, like we like to say. And they're coming to the middle and saying, hey, I'll work with this Republican, I'll work with this Democrat. And, being kind of a individual who will work with both sides, I think I'm the perfect candidate.
Yeah, that was one thing I think that kind of stood out to me. And that's why, we were interested in having you on the podcast, is because when we started the Political Center as a political news platform, not to be a bunch of rhinos, right? But to be, is there a Democratic equivalent of a rhino? Or are they just rhinos on both
dino,
sides? Is that what they call?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen dino out there.
But anywho, my entire point is I think a lot of times both sides will look at people who are in the middle and say, oh, you just can't pick a side.
Right.
But which I find really interesting about that is like, no, I do have a side. My side is with people.
Yeah.
And just because I'm not, a whack job doesn't mean that, I'm not strong and firm in my stance.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big misconception that has been painted in politics nowadays, where if you're looking at the middle of the road, or if you're looking at things that are not extreme one way or another, you get painted as someone who can't make a decision or someone who's weak in their stance. And right. I don't believe that's the case all the time. Now, I don't know entirely your stances, which is why we're here,
Yeah.
But I think that's a good thing that I think culturally we're going to have to push back against if we want to change our culture,
I completely agree. I mean, the district, for me, I'm representing the whole district. And I can't just come in with a political creed and say, well, I'm conservative, so you're all going to be conservative. Or I'm, an activist on the left, so all of you need to be activists with me. To me, that's idiotic. right? To come in and say, you have to be just like me. I'll be an elected individual who's representing the entire district, and I need to listen to the entire district. That's really important.
Yeah. So what is your platform? What are the main points that you're trying to hit home to people? What are you running on?
Yeah, I'm keeping it very simple. We have such a convoluted government these days. It's overbloated. It's too big. It's unchecked. Unchecked power is something that the people are going, this has to change. So it's affordability, so people can live in this state and not have to move out of this state. It's public safety. Having a huge chunk of Portland in my district, we see Measure 110 did nobody any favors. It didn't do any of the drug users, the people who are addicted, any favors. It didn't do any of the residents any favors. Both parties see it as a fatal flaw, a completely failed experiment that never should have been an experiment. And then education. So affordability, public safety, education. It starts at our kids, and we have the 5th highest funded education system in the nation, and we're ranked the 4th worst. And for proficiency standards, the NAEP proficiency, the national standard that we look to every year, we're first worst. We are the worst in proficiency outcomes. We're in the 40s, 30s, and 40s for reading and math.
Yeah, and see, that's a world that, education's a world I know quite a bit. I was on the school board here in Salem Kaiser, and what I will often tell people when they ask me about the world, of education or about politics in general, I'm like, well, you can lead a horse to water, but if the horse chooses to shove its head in the water and drown itself, you can't really stop it.
Yeah,
and that's what it seems like happens often, where it's like, you have all the, like, if we're the 5th most funded, in the nation, right? And if we're not 5th, like it's up there though. I do remember it being up there. We're like at least top 10, right? But then our results are some of the worst. Then something's going wrong here, with the allocation of the said money. What do you think? Why do you think that is? Like, what do you think it is that we're doing differently?
So my sister's an educator. My mom went to college as an educator. I hear from them, at the ground level, at the education level. And I've met with, the thing is I think the problem is as elected officials, we come in and say, I'm going to fix everything. I'm an expert in everything. I'm not an expert in a lot of things, and I'll never be an expert in a lot of things. So it's important to sit down with administrators, with teachers, and speaking specifically to education, I met with several individuals who are at the ground level, and the governor education really starts at the governor. They appoint the education head, and really it starts there. So we can point to, the Queen and say, there's where the failure started. Dollars do not mean educational outcome. Okay. So Montana, which is a different state, a lot of different, elements there, but they're the 22nd cheapest educational system, and they're the best. And so to me, dollars, in a simple way of looking at it, don't mean educational outcomes. So once a different way of leading from the top starts, what I'm hearing from administrators and teachers and individuals are that that really it needs to start at the district level. We can't take it from the state to the kids when it comes to educational curricula. It's got, and I've actually built a plan that puts together district-wide educational curricula that we develop, or that they develop, the committee develops. It's got to be administrator, it's got to be parents involved in this, it's got to be teachers involved in this committee who build the curricula specific to the district, and then they can really target the needs of that specific district. And sometimes, the individual school, go that granular with the curricula. We can't go state down and force every district to do exactly what the state mandates. And then the testing has to be based on progress of that district, not the state.
That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective. Have you spoken with OSBA at all about this? Have you talked to anybody there? Because what OSBA does, right?
Yeah.
Is they're actually in this building. They're on the floor up.
Yeah.
But the Oregon School Boards Association, basically, they represent the different school boards across the state of Oregon. And as you know, most school districts are rural.
Yep.
Or rural. I'm not good at saying words. But what's really interesting about the OSBA is they serve the school boards themselves. So whoever gets elected on these school boards, then each school board is a member of OSBA.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of them are. I think there's like 2 of them that weren't last time I was on it. But have you spoken with anybody there about this at all? Or
when it comes to that department, no, I haven't. I'll head up there after this meeting. But
yeah,
what I'm hearing from school board members who I've got endorsements from these individuals.
Yeah.
And I've asked them, why aren't things working? The resounding message I'm hearing from these guys are they don't do anything at their level. They're doing almost nothing because they have about maybe 10% of say in what's happening in the actual school. So again, the problem is the state mandates it. They force it down to the school level, and the board is going, we're just rubber stamping things, and they're going, what are we doing here? So they've lost all authority district wide to come in and make key decisions that really affect our kids. Their parents, most of the time you see an angry parent running for school board and they're like, I got to fix this, and which is wonderful, right? They're at the ground level, but we also need business people doing that. And we also need, public servants doing that. And they're coming in and going, this isn't working because we have no power. We have no authority. Yeah. So I pity the organization that supports the school board members because there's really nothing to do at that level.
Yeah. Well, there are things you can do, but but a lot of the things surrounding curriculum, what's in the curriculum, how much time during a school day can be spent on which topic.
Yeah. So we broke a record, and I did a little clip on this on my own page, 83%. Okay. With highest in Oregon educational history. Okay. Since 1950, since we started tracking those things, we removed all grad standards in 2021, and we extended that to 2028. That is why.
Oh,
we have no standards.
Okay. What do you mean by grad standards?
The legislature removed the existing graduation standards completely. So if you show up, if you complete the work, no matter what your grade is, no matter what the proficiency outcome is, you graduate.
That's crazy.
That's insane. That is a complete failure of our children. So our kids are coming out of school thinking that they've maybe learned something, and they're going into the work world, they're going into the trades, they're going into the college world, and they're thinking that they are ready for this, and they're probably ready for nothing. It's very, very sad.
Oof. Well, I'm depressed.
I can't believe it. We have, my wife and I have 5 kids, and they've all gone through or currently are in the public school system.
Yeah.
And it's quite unbelievable. Number one, the ability for us as parents to track the progress of our kids, to even track the assignments that are going in. I have a Google notifications in my email, and I get missing assignments, and we're parenting based on these parameters.
Yeah.
So, hey, you lose your electronics if you don't, turn in everything. And I'm reaching out, and my kids are saying, no, I turned everything in. And I reach out to the teachers and go, why isn't this reporting? And they go, oh yeah, that's not correct. And I haven't done that yet. And our poor teachers, I'm not slamming these teachers, but we've got to have some sort of ability to real-time track these.
Yeah.
These metrics. And as a parent, quite honestly, I don't know how.
Well, that's one thing that I think we should know is that, like, I have so much deep respect for our teachers. Like, I have one of my best friends, right? She's a 3rd grade teacher, and I have a ton of friends that are teachers, but one of my best friends also is.
Yeah.
And just the amount of work and heart and soul that they put into their job. And like, a crazy thing about teachers also, right, is that they have to wear more than just the hat of a teacher. right? I mean, they were in the hat as like a parent figure for a lot of kids. Like for me, a lot of my teachers were kind of like, whether it's not their job to be, but a lot of them were because I didn't have parents. So it's like they're dealing with a lot more than just teaching a kid math. You know what I mean? They're helping them emotionally regulate. They're helping them learn how to socially behave. They're helping them like with stuff that has nothing to do with the classroom. And so like, I just have so much respect for a lot of our teachers, and it's unfortunate that like they bear the brunt of a lot of, you know, either bad parenting or no parenting at all, or bad administrative decisions. I mean, they kind of have to deal with all of it, which I think is too bad. But it's also like, I would be curious to see of the funding that comes to Oregon, how much of that funding reaches a classroom as opposed to administrative as a whole.
So by the numbers, I mean, I couldn't break down the dollars to exactly focus on what gets to the classroom, but I can tell you that since 1950, our student population has grown 96%, and which is a healthy amount, but not astronomical, right? It's doubled. And our administrative staff has increased over 750%. Okay, so that's just administrative staff. They don't touch kids. They do not have any contact with kids. All right. Our non-administrative, non-teaching staff that don't have the necessarily, you know, frequent contact with the children has increased over 350%. Wow. The teacher population has increased 250%. Okay, so that's just breaking it down by the numbers. I've done some healthy research on this, and to me, I think that the teacher staff, that's palatable. 250% on 96% increase of students. All right, what we know now from 1950, you know, is very different, and I think that to me is palatable, and we should be able to accept that change. But the 750% increase of admin staff is absurd.
That is crazy.
Yeah. That's where our money's going.
Yeah, that's a crazy number, especially when you compare it to the other two, you know?
Right.
As we're on the topic of education, one that I think aligns pretty closely to being equally as important as someone's education, right? Because if you're fighting for the working people, which it sounds like it's kind of what your whole thing, you know, is you care about the working man. There's education piece, which I think helps a lot of people get up, right? And climb the economic ladder. The other side of it is affordability, which is, you know, as I'm trying to climb my way up, what baggage do I have holding me down, you know? And one of the biggest topics that I've talked about on this podcast with many people, different people from nonprofit owners to business owners to other politicians, is housing affordability specifically, which in Oregon is kind of getting nuts. What are your thoughts on housing affordability? What's happening now? What's wrong with what's happening now? And what is your plan, or what's your platform on that?
I mean, let's use Tina Kotek's own standard that she set for herself when she became governor. She's at about 30%, I think, of that of that new housing standard.
What does 30% of a new housing standard mean?
The total number of new homes built within that certain term.
Okay. So the X amount, so of all the homes sold, is that what you're talking about, or the homes?
I think home availability is what that metric is.
Okay. So that 30%, so 30% of housing being new housing of total houses available at any given moment.
Well, she set a goal, and her goal was, we're going to have X amount of new homes available, right? So the procreation of new homes, and this is our goal. She's at 30% of it. Now we can check the exact number on that, but staggeringly low. And to me, that's, again, more failure. So in my head, I'm looking at, okay, what is the quickest path to just new home increase? Okay. And what is the biggest obstruction that we see? I can't get my head outside of the fact that the government is in the way of new home creation. We all need government. We all need cops, courts, roads, fire, all those great things that we pay into that we expect at a moment's notice, we're not even getting that, let alone, letting the private sector build homes and developments and things of that nature. And the only thing that I researched the heck out of these things, the only thing I can think of is regulation. We stand in the way from the moment something needs to be cut down to turn into a board to build a house. Government kicks in, and the regulatory apparatus is flying in the face of progress. It's flying in the face of new builds to keep affordable homes available. When somebody from the government comes in and says, mentions the term affordable housing, it terrifies me. It should terrify every Oregonian.
Why is that?
Because affordable nothing comes from the government, especially Oregon government. Okay. So if the government comes in and says, I'm going to create affordable housing, it's buying land at pennies on the dollar from somebody who is, trying to get out from under that land. They're setting all sorts of environmental regulations, which I'm all about environmental regulations. I love the fact that we pull our food out of the ground and we need to keep it clean. That's super important. But there's such a obstruction within that entire mindset that we've got so much unnecessary regulation that we need to start peeling some of it back, not all of it back. So it starts.
Well, I would say at least like taking a look at it, because I think there was a little while there where we were trigger happy with some of these environmental regulations, which I love the environment. I'm native. It's like our thing, like we love the environment. I think like our national park system was one of the greatest things we ever did, right? To preserve a lot of the natural beauty that this country has. And Oregon has a lot of natural beauty. I mean, that's why most of us stay here. Otherwise, a lot of people would leave.
No natural disasters, really. I mean, there's really nothing going on that's terrifying. No tornadoes or anything like that. Like,
which is nice.
Come here. Yeah.
That's a plus.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that's not entirely true. So when I was in 6th grade, my hometown in Almsville, Oregon.
Oh, I remember that.
We had a tornado. Isn't that crazy?
It was a horrible tornado too.
Yeah, it like messed some stuff. Actually, no one died. Actually, one guy got sent to the hospital because he got hit in the head by a 2x4. But it screwed up some houses.
Sure. Yeah,
and
it leveled some things.
But in Oregon, like we're so not used to that we remember a tornado from 2010.
Right.
That was 60 years ago.
There was one in Vancouver like 20 years ago as well that popped up, and everybody's like, "Oh, what is this, Kansas?"
Yeah, exactly. Well, the fact that like we remember those two events says how often it happens.
And the flood of '96, like I'll always remember that.
I was
not around.
I was one. Yeah. I heard rumors.
Yeah.
But so question for you about the environment, about the building regulation and environmental regulations. Specifically, is there any specific regulations that you could point out and say that one could get cut or that one could get cut? Are there any that you know of on the top of your head?
I would love to be able to do that, but the issue is those regulations go so far down into the local government that I would have to pick a specific city and say, okay, these are the regulations. County are usually where you see a lot of those regulations. The studies that need to happen, the environmental studies, I think those need to be peeled back. We do feasibility studies and environmental impact studies. I think that the extent of those what we need to do is we need to use what some of the other surrounding, like another county feasibility environmental impact study that was done 20 feet over there. We need to use the data from that.
Yeah.
We're not these departments within, I beat up on the county, but these departments within the county that should be talking to each other are not. So if we've got an environmental impact study that was done on lot 6 and we're building on lot 5, we need to take that environmental impact study and go, okay, this translates exactly to that. So we need to use our own data that we have. We're not doing that. So that can be where we start peeling back and going, hey, what data do we already have that's 10 years back?
Yeah. Well, because what happens is when you have to pull that data, right, the question always becomes, well, how are you going to pay for this? Who's paying for this? And who do you think?
Now you're getting to SDCs, and that's at the municipal level.
Yeah.
And if there's a sinkhole because government is broke and we haven't maintained that area, okay, the basic core services that we expect, I spoke to a developer the other day, and they were digging. They got everything approved, and they were digging. There was a sinkhole because the government did not maintain that road. They made the developer pay for a new road, fill the sinkhole, and they had to tack that right onto the cost of the house. That was in Happy Valley.
That's crazy.
In my district.
Yeah,
so
that's nuts.
Who gets penalized? Me, the home buyer.
Yes. Well, and that's what the one thing that you gotta think of, because when you're building a home, right?
Yeah.
If you or I, or someone else, decides to build a home, just a regular person, you're like, you know what? I would like to get into home building. It actually sounds kind of fun. I remodeled my houses myself.
Yeah.
It was a ton of fun. And so if you get into home building, right, are you just going to bear the cost for social justice? No, that's ridiculous. Like, you're building the home for it to end up, pay for itself, and then you can get paid for some of your labor. Right. But if you're eating, $100,000 in fees, permit costs, research studies, and extra things that get tagged on, you kind of you don't have a choice but to put that into the price of the home. And so it's kind of like it's a crazy thought to me. It's like when I was in college, I went to Willamette, and I was with some college students, and we went shopping. And when we were at the store, we had a discussion about stealing from stores. And I'm not gonna name names or anything, right? That'd be crazy. But some of them were like, well, we could steal because it doesn't matter, because it doesn't affect the pricing of the goods. So I'm like, you do realize that, like, stores know roughly a percentage of how much gets stolen every year,
right,
and then they price that into the price of goods. But there was this mindset of, well, tagging these extra fees onto these people with a lot of money doesn't matter, because it's not going to, the price is still going to be the same.
Right.
And I'm of the belief that's not true.
Oh, absolutely isn't true.
Yeah. And so, because if people weren't stealing, let's just say the margin's 10%, right? Then that 10% is an extra 10% profit, right? Mm-hmm. And then their competitor, if also not getting stolen from, has that 10% margin also. The competition they'd be able to bring the price down and compete and get more customers.
And
right?
You've got scale of efficiencies that's going to drive it down. So you're going to see better prices if you have no shrink.
Yeah. And so the way that translates in the housing, right, is when we tag on all these extra fees, we're essentially like stealing from the developer in a way, right? And tagging on like extra things that don't need to be there. Then it just ends up getting pushed onto the consumer, which it wouldn't otherwise. Yeah.
Very true. And it's from a legislative seat, starting at the state level, is a part of that. I reached out to the home builders and I said, can you give me a breakdown of what it costs just in red tape to build a house? Mm-hmm. And they said, it's impossible for us. At the state level, it's impossible, because it's county by county by county. It's city by city by city.
Interesting.
And then you've got metro.
Were they able to give you like a ballpark, or?
Not even close.
Really?
Yeah. I had to go to the city level, and the winner, I guess, from cities that I went through for SDCs and all that, it was a good number to start building a house was like 60 grand. So red tape, 60 grand. Got as high as 95 just before you even break ground.
Wait, about 60 to $95,000 before you break ground on the house?
Correct. Just red tape.
Now, I heard rumors. Let's just say we were able to cut that in half, right? If we brought it down to $30,000 to $45,000 of red tape before you build the house. Imagine if we were able to decrease home prices for new homes by 30 grand. Imagine how much more affordable homes would be for people.
And what does 30 grand look like over an amortization schedule of 30 years?
A lot.
How many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars does it, can you save the average family? They can pay it off in 20 years, at the same rate. Yeah. I mean, it starts really compounding into such a better economic system. But that, speaking specifically to homes, that's where the legislature has to work with the county. You have to work with the city, and you can either force them and say, here's state mandate, you've got to comply, or you can meet them where they are and go, why are your regulations so high? Why are your fees so high? How can we peel it back as you peel it back and help you?
Yeah.
And so it really has to be in concert with local government.
And how would you, as a legislator, work with local government? How do you see that? How does that work?
Well, the relationships I've developed now. I mean, I was a councilman, and I was a finance chairman for the city, and the relationships I've built over that time and are building even still in this campaign with county commissioners and city government and mayors is going to translate really well into office at the state level. So I'm going to have to reach out to them and go, hey, here's what we can do at the state level. Can you palette some of these changes at your level as well? And it's just going to be relationship based. I mean, it's got to be relationship based. And if they don't get on board, then we're going to have to make some tough decisions at the state level.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, as far as affordability goes, I mean, housing's the big one. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest issues in people's minds right now.
Yeah.
But what are some other issues within affordability that you see as a concern or something that you wish to address?
I mean, let's tie in education with that question. So,
college or
everything.
Younger education?
Yeah. So let's just go college, right? Okay, so they get through K-12. We make our kids go to school. They come out, no standards, whatever. Put them into the mindset of you get a good college education. And this goes back to my upbringing. My parents they wanted better for their children. I mean, I think that all of us want better for our children. And, my mom escaped some poverty, abuse and things of that nature by way of educational performance. I mean, her story is so inspiring. And, my wife's story is similar and just inspiring when it comes to those things saving people, education saving people from so much more than, low economic performance. But we hardwired, and maybe this is my generation, I was hardwired to think that if you don't go to college, if you don't get a degree, you will fail in life. You will be poor. And I didn't perform in school. I performed very poorly, and I couldn't figure out. I kind of developed this feeling about myself that I'm just not good enough, and I guess I'm just going to be poor. And I didn't graduate college. My family is very educated. They have a lot of degrees, and I felt like I was looked at as, you just didn't quite make it, kid.
Yeah.
And what was never taught to me is the alternative, which are skilled trades. And, even in my generation, we've kind of looked down at, the one turning a wrench. And the excitement I get when I go out to these skilled tradesmen training centers, I get stoked because these kids are coming out of school at K-12, not feeling very confident about who they are, about their, economic output at that point. But they're going into these trades going, well, I guess this is what I'm cut out for. They're learning an incredible skill. They're getting paid for it. They're working with the contractors. They're becoming contractors in a lot of situations. And then they're coming out debt-free, and they're immediately going into the work world. That is going to be the shortest path to economic increase, because we're talking about building houses.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got to have these regulations peeled back so that contractors and developers can start that process, but you got to have the worker, and you've got to have skilled workers. It's important to know, what a trade and a skill when you're coming out of these operations. And so,
for sure. Well, I mean, so just so you know, I mean, I just got out of doing bridge construction for the last, 7 years of my life.
Yeah.
And 9 years, something crazy, a long time.
A third of your
9
life.
years. Yeah, it's been 9 years,
Yeah.
dude. That's crazy. About a third of my life. Yeah. And I was doing like bridges and roads. And now I'm just shooting TikToks. But what I would say is, like, it seems like that entire industry, right? And everyone a lot of people in the trades are getting older. Yeah. It's kind of an aging demographic as a whole. And there was quite a while where doing these trades was kind of frowned upon. Like, you were looked as less than.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's true anymore. And not just that, but AI is going to replace me doing a podcast a lot quicker than it's going to replace, Jim turning a wrench, fixing a sink. Exactly. AI can't fix a sink yet.
Nope.
And so I think that, or build a bridge.
Yeah.
And so when AI takes this job, I might have to go back. I think that that's one thing that I think is really important for young people to know and understand is that, there's a lot, you got to go where the opportunity is, not just where, Disney tells us to go.
Exactly. And we have a mix of that in our family. Our kids are, we have two college educated kids. One's a business man, and the other is a deputy, an officer.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's the daughter. She's the tough one. But, and then we've got one who is headed towards the carpentry trade.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
He's excited. He just got into the carpenters union, and he's very excited about that. So, and he's perfectly cut out for it.
Yeah.
And so that to me is something we need to exploit rather than get your college degree and go make a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Come out $100,000 in debt, and that's no way to live. That will not get a state to an economic increase. It won't.
Yeah. No, that's completely true. Well, I like your outlook on that. And I think, and I hope that, if you do get in, that you really stick to what you're saying, as far as a lot of people get in and,
sure,
they end up doing other things.
Yeah.
But I do hope that if you do get it, that you really stick to that. Cause I think that workers need that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people right now are feeling the pain. And it's like, we've been promised and promised and promised and promised by Republicans, by Democrats, by independents that, I'm looking out for the worker. I'm looking out for the worker. Then what ends up happening? We end up getting screwed.
I see what that means in Salem. And, my conservative friends might not love this, but there is an old world way of thinking on both sides.
Yeah.
I sit in Salem in representative offices. I'll do my day job there. And I'm seeing, a bill specific to, wage theft or some sort of a, trade bill. And it makes sense. It makes sense for the contractor. It makes sense for the worker. It's a great bill. And, you see conservatives come over and, ooh, I don't know about that. That's not what we do. And it's like, listen, what we do lately as conservatives is lose. That's what we do. So how about we step across the aisle and go, no, this is some common sense stuff. How about we advocate for that? And then people will start coming alongside us and maybe we'll get some votes. To me, that seems exciting, that we get out of our head, and this has got to happen on the left as well, right? Because they've got the superpower, and people have just got to stop thinking, well, that's not what we do, and start thinking what we do needs to be directed towards the people and where they're at.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think most people would agree that I think our state, I'm an independent, right? I try to focus mostly on like native issues and then of course business stuff, but I think that most people would agree that balance would be healthy for our state, just having just balance. I mean, we're not looking for like one side or the other, right? We're looking for just a balance. So then like you're kind of forced to bounce your ideas off of somebody. Mm-hmm. So then we can get better outcomes, the competition within it. But right now, it kind of seems like things are so streamlined that if they don't need the votes, they don't need the help from anybody else. So I feel like that can happen sometimes. Now, you told me earlier that your dad was a Teamster.
Yeah. 47 years.
Your mom was a teacher?
My mom was educated as a teacher. She's got a number of degrees, and she actually went into the hospital world. So healthcare, was a big hospital administrator.
Okay, this is a lot. How about can you just tell me about like how you grew up, your family dynamic?
Yeah.
What was that like?
So I didn't grow up in a challenged family. I've been incredibly blessed. And to me, it's part of why I'm running is to whom much is given, much is expected. Right. And so if I'm somebody who, grew up very cared for, both parents, still married, it is up to me to.
That's like unheard of nowadays.
I know. I know. But that's a responsibility, right? I don't have some deficits that others may have had. Which I really see as kind of a badge of honor because, I've had to kind of bumble my way through, being tough and all that. But it's important for my story, to take that and really bless my constituents, with all the blessing that I've had. But, my dad, like I said, Reagan Republican Teamster, mom was a hospital administrator, white collar, Kennedy Democrat. And I heard all sides. I heard a lot about the worker and the value of the worker. And, I grew up going to union meetings. I won my union my Teamsters t-shirt at a union meeting. And, that was really ingrained in me. And what does skilled labor and organized labor look like? And how does it hurt? How does it help? My mom, brought a lot of healthcare issues to me, and that is a huge topic here in Oregon and nationally as well. But then also brought a different perspective of, she grew up in Arkansas in the South, during civil rights. And I got such a better education through that than even public school. She's like, this is what I saw. I saw people being shot down the street with a fire hose in front of me.
Wow.
And so the passion that she explained, like, this is not where we want to go. Again, this is not how you live and where we want to be as a state and a country. And so the value I had, in my upbringing really fashioned who I was. And I'm kind of a jack of everything, all the trades. Whenever somebody asked me to join a board to serve the community, whether it be a chamber board, or I was vice president of Legacy Health Foundation board in Portland, the biggest hospital chain, and, founded in Portland. And I just say yes. I say, oh, I'll serve on that. I'll do that. So I've been on boards, and, I've coached and served in the schools, and I get really excited about the fact that I was blessed with quite a bit in comparison. And I just want to sow that right back into the community.
That's awesome. I think that is, one, I think that's very honorable. I think it's cool that you care so much. Mm. And I think that, really like comes through. I can feel your energy as you're talking about it. Yeah. And I think that's really awesome. And I think that, like, it is, well, you don't owe anybody anything, right? Just because you grew up with parents.
I owe a lot of people a lot of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I could take it and hold it for my own.
Yeah. But it is cool that you're willing to step up and that you're willing to serve. You know what I mean? And I admire anybody who, I always tell people, when it comes to, like, people in office, I can respect you if you have two things, right? I don't have to agree with you politically, but if you have these two things, I can respect you. One is there a logic line in what you're thinking? Yeah. Like, when you tell me about why you're voting away and your reason for it, like, can I tell how you get from point A to point B? Does it make sense? And then number two is, like, do you actually care? Yeah. Like, is this done out of care for humans?
Yeah.
And for other people? And as long as you got those two things, you got my respect,
It's interesting, and I appreciate that, yeah. Jesse. I mean, that means a lot to me. But it's interesting that my way of thinking gets me to compassion and empathy, because of how I grew up. I feel kind of a weight of responsibility because I didn't choose that. I didn't choose a great upbringing. I was gifted it, and my wife comes from a very different place and arrives at the same spot: compassion and love for others. And she's my inspiration. I mean, she's a single mom of 3 kids for 15 years, put herself through school, built a commercial cleaning company. And I look at her and think, man, we arrived at the same spot.
That's crazy. Loving people and making sure that others are blessed because we're blessed. She arrived at it through, hard work and grit and fight. And, I arrived at it through some blessings, and I'm a fighter as well. I'm a software executive, and we own some small businesses, and we fight tooth and nail and work very hard, but we arrive at the same place. And to me, my upbringing, seeing my parents compromise and work together, my wife and I, have a very different upbringing, and we still are at the same spot, which is love and compassion for all. And our faith really boasts that. So that's really important. Different upbringings arrive at the same spot. And that's kind of my district. We're all going to arrive at the same spot if we can just put our guns down, put our knives down, and say, hey, let's stop the fighting. Let's take it down a notch, and let's talk about what makes us most passionate. Yeah. No, I like that. What, now you said you got a wife and kiddos now. Yeah. Yeah. How many kids you got? So we've got 5 total. Wow. That's a lot of kids. Yeah. What do you do with them all? 2 are in the house. We just got 20-year-old moved over to, he's in Corvallis. He's going to the Carpenters. And then we've got a daughter. She's in a deputy in Oregon. And then, like I said, oldest is a businessman. And we've got 2 young ones in the house, and they're in public school. They're sports players, baseball and
soccer and basketball, and they're musical. So we're very musical. So we make our family our hobby. We all travel together. We do a big family trip every year, and we've got some weddings coming up. So we've got a couple of wonderful in-laws.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, weddings for the kids?
Weddings for the kids.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. We're marrying them off. And then in June, I will soon to come be a grandpa.
Dang.
Yeah.
You're about to be a grandpa?
I know. Wild, huh?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Such a blessing. A little baby coming, and we're very excited.
I used to have a dog.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
So
there's responsibility.
it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Carry the tool. You're like, no, not at all.
Right.
Let's just say you get in, right? How are you going to know for yourself that it's a job well done? How are you going to know that you succeeded?
I kind of have to go. I'll tie that in with my personal characteristics. Maybe a healthy amount of ignorance in that, I don't really look at the trepidation and the fear, the fear that could be coming my way. I just ignore it. And I want people to know that I tenaciously affected change for them very quickly. We've gotten to a place in our state that it's been a slow death for us, and we've seen the train slowly coming at us, but we have to make some very tough decisions very quickly. And to me, I want people to say, okay, this is so cliche, but we really had a hero in our state rep. We had somebody who came and addressed our needs very quickly. And, you hear the adage of, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, be so scared of that. And I really am. So I have so much faith in people. I have faith in business owners, in workers, in, individuals who are job seeking. And I just have too much faith in my district and the population to say, you need government to come in and do this for you. Government needs to be the core services. We need to have key priorities and core service delivery and performance mechanisms. We don't have performance standards at all in the government. We need to have those.
What do you mean by that? Do you mean performance standards for how do we know if our legislators doing well?
Yeah. It's something I did. I put together a scorecard, a legislative scorecard now, for a trade that endorsed me. And I said, hey, I'm going to come back when elected. I'm going to show you what I've done. And I'm going to show you why I voted on things. And they go, this has never been done. It's a business QBR is what it is. Quarterly business review. Mm-hmm. And I don't see legislators doing that. I see them, have talking points and come out and say, this is what I did and I voted on this. But overall, you can't see how you affected change very quickly. And so I want people to remember me for my tenacity, for my fight, because we need a fighter. We need somebody who's not placating, who's coming in and kicking some tables over a little bit. That's really important to me.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think that, that's going to be important. You're going to have to, you're going to have to, especially. Yeah. But more important than just the turning over the tables, I think, is how are you planning on navigating? Because you mentioned earlier that the Democrats have a supermajority. Mm-hmm. You're running as a Republican.
Yeah.
So what's your game plan for navigating that world?
Well, first it has to start with the race. And I think we're capitalizing on people going, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah.
We're willing to come across the aisle just for something different. And my race is ranked by the caucus as the number 2 most flippable seat by the Republican caucus. It's also ranked by the Democrats recently. They ranked it number 2 seat to protect. All right. So we've everybody is noticing this race. This is key in Oregon. We're focusing, on 3 races in Oregon. If we can flip those 3 seats, we take their supermajority away. Okay. That doesn't give us ultimate power. That gives them a little bit of a check and balance.
Well, that's not even a 50-50.
Right.
Let's be honest.
But we've got some good Democrats in there who are coming across the aisle.
Oh, we totally do.
Yeah. That goes into your question is my plan is to work with those Democrats, those common sense Democrats who are not running on bumper sticker politics, grandstanding on the headlines, who are going, yeah, we need to work with you for some change. And they'll see that in me as well. I think the best negotiating outcome is when everybody goes away a little bit frustrated but something's going to get done, you know, and nobody's going to get all of what they want. So that's how I'm going to work together. I understand my place in the world of Oregon politics. You know, I know that I'm not going to have ultimate power, nor do I want it. You know, I want to be checked and balanced as well. And I'm going to work with those across the aisle to get things done, because it's for Oregonians.
Yeah. Well, for people that are in your district,
yeah,
specifically, if they're picking between you and your opponent, what would you see as the biggest key differences between the two of you, and why should they pick you over them?
So I'll stay away from the ideology, because I told you I hate bumper sticker politics, and we have very different ideology. I would really just put our experience up against each other. We have 5 children. Okay. I'm currently a father of younger children. We have children all the way through, you know, adult age. I have experience there. I have experience being a parent in the education system, in the public education system. I have experience as a business founder and owner and, you know, manager. And, you know, I have great experience. My wife has even more experience in that. I'd like to see my opponent show me some of that experience. I have experience in local government. I was chairman of the finance committee of one of the only cities with a spending cap and debt-free and a surplus. And we gave $1 million back to the citizens and lowered property taxes 3 cycles in a row.
What city?
Damascus.
You did?
We darn well did.
I don't know. I don't know if I believe that.
Fact check me.
That's crazy.
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Okay.
We had a surplus, we had a spending cap, and we voted $1 million back to the citizens through council. And we lowered property taxes 3 budget cycles in a row.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I would say good job.
Yeah. Thank you. I'd also like to see my opponent come and show me experience in the private sector. So I have government experience where I've served. You know, I've been in that world. I would like for him to show me his experience outside of the lobby, outside of taxpayers funding his salary. Show me, and you make the comparison. That's big for me. Experience. That's the biggest difference between him and I's experience.
You know, thank you for pointing that out. Well, because your voters are going to care a lot about that, you know? And I think a lot of times, especially on podcasts, people kind of patter around. And like, I'm not wanting you to slander your opponent. We're not here to do that. But I do think being able to point out, okay, I was on the debate team for William University for a long time, right? Okay. And what they teach you is you're supposed to say, well, here's what I do very well. Here's what my opponent does very well. But here's how we're different. Here's why you want me instead. Yeah. You know, and I think you did that pretty well. Yeah. And one thing that I would say just on that is I actually think our country was built for people to serve in public office, but then go live a regular life.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it sounds a little, you know, cliche, but I mean, George Washington was the best example of that. I mean, the whole world saw that, and it changed the way the world governed.
Yeah.
And so, you know, someone with power stepped away. So our country was kind of built around the idea that regular people who work regular jobs take some time to serve their community in public office in some fashion, and then go back to your regular job. Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of the way it was built. And I think sometimes people get a little lost in the sauce, so to speak.
You know, I'm not going to be rich on the legislative salary. It's just over $40,000, and I'm not doing it for the money. You know, we've you know, done fairly well, and it's something that I really am doing to serve. Like I said, I've been so blessed, and I've worked hard. I've got a lot of runway. I mean, I'm fairly young, and you know, I look to really affecting change very quickly. So that's my goal, and if I can't do it at all, get me out of there.
What are your thoughts on the referendum? We talked about that a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about the referendum and them moving it to the May ballot, which seemed a little shisty?
So, I spoke at committee for the referendum, and it was pretty saucy. But I cited the original language that came from the 1902 referendum, from where it originated. And it was to give the power back to the people. It was moving it from a representative democracy to true democracy when boss rule, when legislative interests were prevailing rather than what the people wanted. And so the purity of a referendum process is incredible. The people say, I mean, it's a virtual insurrection, right? I mean, you come in and you go, nope, we're taking this back. Okay. It's a revolution on paper. And so to me, that's incredible. We did that. Every Oregonian, 250,000, signatures came. All the people said, we're taking it back. We're taking the power back. And the referendum, the petition said November. And at that point, when you get that passed, the government loses the power. I did a video and I posted it about giving a testimony to the committee for the referendum when they were kicking around moving it to May. And it's quite a spicy video. I let him have it, but I cited the 1902 language of the original referendum. And it's to take the power back from the legislative body and from the governor and say, we the people now have the power again. And it's changing it from a representative democracy to a true democracy. And to me, that is a statement of the people, and that happened, and the power was taken and given back to the people. The legislature tried to take it and say, no, we're going to move it to May. And the head of the Senate at the time, Wagner, said, yes, this is political. We don't want to see it on the ballot. I mean, they admitted it. So to me, it was incredibly important to follow the process. And the process was, it was stated on the petition that it was for the November ballot. So the reason,
it did. And that was my only concern with the fact that, because like they have the ability and power to move things wherever they need to. Mm-hmm. My only concern with it was the referendum did directly say on it the November ballot.
Right.
And that's where we kind of run into issues, because that's what the people voted for.
Yes.
That's what they signed up for.
They did.
And then after the people signed up for it, then we changed it. And that's kind of where I was like,
It seems a little sneaky, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And what's most important is the messaging as well. Is, they're saying, well, we're going to have to fire ODOT workers. Their budget is whole. Okay. It's balanced outside of the $4.3 billion. ODOT has failed audits over and over and over again. Okay. Let's start at that problem. Pass your audit, balance your budget.
Did you see the ODOT budget is balanced?
The initial ODOT, the initial budget, is intact.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
As it sits today. The increase was because of a deficit because of foul budgeting. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I believe it was just over $1 billion of shortfall, and so they came to the people and said, we want $4.3 billion. That was their answer, and so it was the largest tax hike in Oregon. And I would like to know if they're having to fire ODOT workers, why do they currently have on the website 800 requisitions open for hire? So are they planning on getting that money? I mean, it's very confusing because they're saying, oh, we're going to have to fire ODOT workers. No, you can keep it intact. It's intact. And I want that to be heard. The above and beyond is because of foul budgeting. That is why they're going for $4.3 billion. And the people said no more. Democrat, Republican, Independent, NAVs, no more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see how it goes. So we find out, because if it's supposed to be on the May ballot, when do ballots go out?
It's going to be cutting it close. So Julie Parrish has filed an appeal, I believe, on the decision, which was local, right? A Marion County judge said, no, it stays on the ballot. They did violate ADA law, federal ADA law, because there was not enough time. So there was a federal lawsuit as well. There was not enough time for a disabled person to go around and get the signatures needed to submit a voter statement, a voter's pamphlet statement. So that was a violation of ADA. So what they've done is a violation of disability law already. So the local lawsuit, the judge said, yes, you can leave it on May. There was an appeal filed, and that's currently where we're at today. So it's very nuanced.
How do you think it's going to go? Do you have any speculation?
I don't have a lot of hope in this state. Judicially, I think we're slanted.
Yeah.
So I think that we are going to see it stay on May. I would love for it to honor the people and go to November.
Yeah.
But the same 250,000 people and more who were angry enough to sign that petition, they'll come out in May. And we'll remind them about the people who voted for the gas tax in November.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one thing that kind of stood out for me, because it just kind of was crossing my mind, right? Is, I mean, you kind of have a pretty big uphill battle, right? Just having an R next to your name on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is it about you that makes you think you're going to win over some of these Democrats? Are you aiming just for Republicans and independents, or are you also trying to win over some Democrats? What's your thought process here?
So by the numbers, my district is about 45,000 voters, 9,500 Republicans and about 13,000 Democrats. Yep. We perform as a D3, so it's doable, right? We have 19,000 non-affiliated voters, and a lot of the registration through DMV has kind of slanted that number. And I think those voters can sway back and forth. I don't think they're set in their ways, but I got to say, I stand up in front of Republicans a lot and I say, guys, there's not enough votes to win Republican seats on the red side. There's just not. And that's why you need to reach out to your Democrat friend and say, hey, you're still my friend. You're still a voter. We still share values. We still barbecue together. And we need to vote together as well on the issues that matter to us: affordability, education, and public safety. Those are the survivable topics that we can all land on pretty much the same spot. And so that's how I'm going to win in November. I'm going to reach across and say, guys, we love you. You love us. Let's put the knives down and let's land on some really common sense issue. There's a lot of common sense, wonderful Democrats out there. And same for non-affiliated voters and independents. So I think what we do is we identify, and I identify you as something, and I put a label on you, and I think that's our fatal flaw. That's terrible in elections. I don't want to label the voters who are voting for me, other than just having common sense and wanting a leader who's going to champion for them. That's all I am.
Good. Well, I appreciate that. I heard, that you were telling me earlier that you got some support already from some of the labor unions. Is that right?
Yeah.
Who you got so far?
So it's still super early, but I recently the heavy equipment operators came out and endorsed me, and Local 701, and that was by no political grandstanding or slick talk or anything. I just went out and met them. I went out and I looked at the training center that is darn impressive out in Canby, and I said, what are your main issues? And one thing that really resonated, or two things actually that really resonated with me, is that they said we sometimes have candidates come out. We rarely have elected officials come out, and we'd love to see an elected official come out and pay attention to us. So I answered that, and I reached out to my future colleagues, and I've got about 5 elected officials coming out to visit them on their first week of their apprenticeship.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
They're all coming out. We're going to do a little video. We're going to eat lunch with them. They're doing lunch for us all. And it's going to be a really neat experience, saying we really care about the tradesmen. Yeah. And then also something that got me is, I when reaching out to them, and having conversations with them, they said, they talk about fair wages. And I said, can we not use that term anymore? And I know that this may be, upsetting some folks, but fair is such a subjective term. I want $1 million a year. That's fair to me.
It's fair to me.
Yeah.
Unless I'm paying you, then it's not fair to me.
Right. But I say, guys, if we can look at what's behind that wage and understand that it translates to a market wage, you're unified, you're union labor, but they compete with the alternative, which is 4 to 6 months of training, for a lot lesser hourly rate. These guys go through 5 years. These guys and gals go through 5 years of training. That is an elitist. That's a specialist. That's the Delta Force of swinging a crane around that could kill hundreds of people if something bad happened. That is a skilled wage. So we need to understand that the fair wage is not. It's a skilled wage. It's a trade.
I see what you mean. Yeah. The language. It's similar to how, so with my tribe, right? We talk about how we're tribal members. I'm sure you've heard the term.
Oh yeah.
And actually, I've been pushing back against that. I'm like, guys, we really need to be careful about the language because we're not tribal members. We're citizens of another country.
Right.
I mean, because really it's a country within a country.
Yeah.
And so
you can't earn that membership. You can't get in and say, I'm going to take this.
Yeah, it sounds like a gym membership.
Right.
And so while originally the language, because language changes over time. And you know, like that was exactly my point I made to them and I keep making it. I think I've made some traction here locally is, you know, I'm not a member of a tribe like I am a member of my gym or a member of a club. You know, it's who I am.
Yeah.
And it's a part of like every fiber of my being and what I do. So I'm a citizen of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not just a member that can come and go.
Yeah.
And similarly to how you were saying about the fair wage versus the skilled wage, I actually think that's a really good differentiation because it's a different conversation.
Yeah.
If we're talking about fair, well, what's fair? You know, versus, you know, dude, I've been working at this for 5 years on learning how to use this equipment.
Yeah.
And it's skilled labor. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a very good I think that's a really good differentiation.
Yeah. And that dovetails in so many industries as well. I mean, when you have a skilled wage, insurance companies, for example, they'll charge you less because they know there's going to be less accidents on the job. There's going to be better training on the job. And that doesn't necessarily need to be a zero-sum equation with the contractors, with the business owners, right? Because everybody needs to come to the table and have that discussion. And you know, I don't want the contractors or the business owners to scare at, you know, the fact that I'm reaching out to workers and going, hey, I think somebody's abandoned you in the other political party, and I'd like to have a conversation with you. What I'm doing is I'm bringing these folks together and I'm going, what benefits us all? It's politics. It's how I'm going to legislate. You know, that's really important to me.
Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. It's been really cool getting to know you and, you know, to understand kind of where your mind's at and what you're doing. And I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jesse.
Really of course, man. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Political Center podcast. See you next time.